See if my volume is on. Move that. Touch off. Alright, so now orientation is locked. It's fine. Alright. Alright. Okay, so that's one that I just finished in production. This is one I'm working on right now. And I'm going to work on a pair of vintage settings clip-on earrings, and I have to harvest stones for these, so I'm harvesting them out of this piece of jewelry right here. It's a brooch that had missing stones, and I just felt like I could use it. It would be more use to me as a piece to source from than it would be to sell it like this. So I'm going to use it for that. And I'm looking for my box of wipes to clean off these stones. And these ones are unfoiled, and it's a good choice because these backs, or these cups, are open backs, and so they're a good choice. Now if these cups were closed, it wouldn't be a good fit to have a stone that's unfoiled because there's no way for light to get in there, and it makes the stone look a lot darker. It would essentially look like that, but since there's no bottom on it, no back, it works perfect. So now I'm going to harvest three more stones. This needs 4 of those, and I'm going to use pairs. I'm going to use a pear-shaped. I just need more space on my workshop desk. I have a pair that's this size right here that I want to fit into this, and it is a foiled back. But I set them. I have a few pieces I want to work on, some repairs, and then some production. This piece is a setting like this one. And I have various colors of stones that I can use. I've already made several of these where the cross is, I did blue, green, and a fuchsia pink. I did a sapphire blue and emerald green and a fuchsia. And then this is kind of like a sky blue here. And I really like the sky blue color. I like the other colors as well. So I'm going to be working on setting some more stones in these, and working on filling the stones into this setting. These cups, or these stones for these cups, aren't an exact perfect fit, but it's really difficult to find stones that fit perfectly in these vintage settings. So I take what I can find. I try to source stones that have a great fit, but because they're so difficult to find on these vintage pieces, sometimes you have to compromise just a little and use a stone that may not be precisely a perfect fit, but close enough that it's it's acceptable. And so that's what I'm working with now. And I'm working on this one, and then three pieces. This one here, this one, and this one. So I'm going to work on getting the stones out of this. And all I do is push back the prongs on these. And then I just kind of, the stone oftentimes just falls out. And then clean the stone off. It has to be really clean in order for the glue to stick. So we'll wash these off. So we have a couple stones. On this one we're going to need 4 of the big navettes. And we might even be able to use these blue rhinestones for the face of the bug if the foil's in good condition. This one looks like it might have a... No, it kind of... Well, maybe it does right there on the edge, a tiny little chip. I think it does have a tiny chip here. I might use a different stone then for that. I'm trying to be really careful not to press too hard against the glass when I open the prongs to remove these stones. Sometimes you can just pry on the stone itself and push those prongs open. There we go. I think that's going to come out just fine without having to remove all the prongs. And I think I'll just take one more of these blue rhinestones out. So I see a chip on one of them, and just, if I don't have to use stones that are chipped, I prefer not to. And there is just a tiny, tiny, tiny little chip on one of those. So I'm going to see about pressing out another one of these that clean these stones off. There. So we have plenty of stones to set inside of these bug clip-on earrings. And bug clip-on earrings are, well, bugs, whether they're brooches or any kind of jewelry, charms, earrings, they're pretty highly sought after in the vintage collectors communities. They're just pieces that people are always looking for. So these are a great one to do a repair on, or do the setting to put the stones in. I want to put, like I said, I'm using this color. It's like almost like a Montana blue. And I've already made a selection on the pear colored stones that I want to put in here. I just want to make certain that they're going to fit okay. And right here they are in front of my face. I've got these pears out, and it's like, where did I put the pears? So here are the pears that I'm using, and I'm hoping they'll fit perfectly. I'm going to wash it up just a little bit inside of these cups, and it looks like, guess I'm going to use a loop to see how well that sits inside there. I'm not sure if that's big enough. Well, you know, it has prongs on it, so I think we can make that work. I think we can make this pear work inside here because it has two little prongs on the back side. When we glue that in, we can set that prong, and I think that'll work perfectly. Now here are the pears, or I'm sorry, the Nivettes we ended up with, and I think they're a nice fit as well. Now on this one, instead of using the GS Hypo cement, I am going to use the E6000 on this one. I'm going to set it down inside here, and I might even set it on the stone. And I'll use, in order to keep from making a huge mess, I'll use these. This is actually one we probably could get away with inverting the stone and leaving the pointed side up. But I think we won't, because the Nivettes are pretty big, and I want them to set in there as well as they can. All right. So there is one pear I pulled out and just conveniently lost right in front of my face. And then somewhere here under all of this, I set that pear aside and somehow lost it already. That's pretty cool. I don't know how I managed to do that. All right, so there's, and these pears are foil backed, and they really need to be foil backed because on this one, because the hole for it is just real small. So I think if it wasn't foiled on the back, it would really hide the color. So I'm hoping these blue and those foil stones will look great. And then we might even try to harvest the eye from this brooch because it's a nice AB stone and it's blue, and that's what we need, is a blue. So we might try to harvest these blue stones. Let's see what happens. If I can get these out without breaking any of the chipping. And I am already hearing a little bit of a crunch. So you have to be careful when you take these stones out, because these little chitons, they will chip. Let's see if we got it out okay. Now these ones are, this one chipped, unfortunately. And it wouldn't work anyway because of a lot of the foil loss. It's lost a lot of foil, I think, on the back of the stone. Let's see if we can do this without chipping. These can be, oh, you know what? Sometimes when I'm taking a stone out, I will use my little nippers. Sometimes I'll use these because they're so tiny. They can actually grip these little prongs very nicely. So I'm going to try to grip these tiny prongs without, and pull them back without scraping the stone. I think I did it. Let's see if we can pry this stone out of there without chipping it. It's not any good if we chip the stone. These are some pretty strong, see, I pulled that one back really far. I think we can get this to pop out of there now. Let's see. Yes. Now, does it have a lot of foil loss? That's the key. Is there a lot of foil loss? Doesn't look like it. Let's see if this would fit in the bug's head. That's what we want to do. We need to find a nice stone that will match these blues well enough. And I think this might work. I like it. I really like that. It's a perfect fit. So we've harvested some of these stones from a previous piece of jewelry, and this will work for a lot of pieces. So we've got our pear, we've got our nivettes, and we've got our eye to finish this bug with. So we have all of our stones except for, we want to clean this off a little bit before we put it in there with a nice cloth as best we can. We're not using a harsh cleaner on these. We want to try to, these are vintage stones, so we got to do our best to preserve the foil on the back. Although they can take a beating. All right, now we're going to try to, again, I might even bring my, I'm going to bring down the magnifying glass for a second so I can get a hold of these prongs without damaging the rhinestone. There, I pulled it way back. If I can just get 2 of these prongs loose, we won't have to worry probably about lifting all of them. But boy, oh boy, these older pieces, some of the prongs on them were built like tanks. Just want to be really careful not to damage those nivettes, or these chitons. I think we got it. I might try to just pull this one back because it looks like it would be an easy one to do. Let's see if we can lift that out of there. It's giving me a little resistance. Come on now. There we go. All right, so we freed another nivette. I keep calling it a nivette, the chiton. Now we're going to wipe this one off a little bit. Just give it a nice little cleaning. I use a little wipe, not a surface wipe. Those might have some harsh chemicals in them for cleaning. So there we go. All right, so we have 2 chitons for the eyes. We have 2 pairs. One I lost, probably under here somewhere. There it is. 2 pairs, and quite a few there in the vets. So we're ready to go. We're ready to put our bugs together. And, oh, don't want to lose that. And then on these other pieces, we have a couple ones we haven't finished yet. I just had to put another order in for these. I think they're a size PP20 on these rhinestones right here. And that's what we're using. Now we'll use the GS Hypo Cement. We're going to use the GS Hypo Cement on this piece. But on some of these pieces, we'll use the E6000 on, because it's going to need too much glue. And I actually prefer on the bigger cups. I find that the E6000 works a lot better for me. Now when I go to set these, I just take a little dab of the glue. I put it in each cup like this. And I do about 6 or 8 of these, sometimes 10 or so. And I might even give them a second to dry, just a tiny bit. And this glue dries relatively quickly. So looks like I want to go ahead and do a few more because the glue's coming out nicely, flowing nicely. I waste a lot of this glue because I don't put the lid on after each time. Now here's a spider I did. I finished yesterday. And what I did with this one was I used the GS Hypo Cement, or the E6000 as well. And these are little tiny baguettes pointed in foil back. And I didn't realize at first when these settings came in that the groove on either side of this back was really intended for baguettes. I just realized that a couple of weeks ago. And I thought, goodness sakes, I think we even sold a bunch of pieces that didn't have the baguettes in. But look how amazing that is. Imagine if that was just a gold tone there on those two little channels. Just a really lovely piece. So there we have that one. Okay, I think we're ready to set some of these stones where we put the glue in. And these are nice and easy to set. You just take your little blue tack and just tap it on the top, and these will just practically stick in there like a little magnet. Now after we get them set nicely, we'll come back and just give a little bit of pressure on the top of each stone and make sure it's sitting nicely inside the cup. It doesn't look like I missed a cup. I didn't get the glue in that one cup there. It doesn't look like. Let me see. Use my loop here and see if I got the glue in it or not. I guess I did get the glue in it. Maybe it started to dry a little bit. Well, we'll set the stone in there. And these are all cups that I just filled with the GS Hypo Cement. And then we'll set those. They set very nicely. And really, when you give these pieces adequate time to dry, it's really difficult to pry these stones out. Unless the foil comes off of it. And the foil remains in the cup, sticking to the glue. Let's see how far we went up on that. I guess I ended with this one here. So once we get the cup set nicely, I just come back around with a pair of tweezers or something. And I like these other ones a little better, a little shorter. I just come back with a pair of tweezers and just kind of tap on the top of those cups and make sure they're set nicely. Sometimes a tiny little bit of glue excess will come out around the edge, and it's okay to leave that on there. We can come back later and pick that off with some tweezers or whatever if we want we don't want any of the glue coming out along the edges there. So once we've tapped this in, we can give that about a half hour or so to dry. And then I'll come back and fill some more glue in these cups and start to set these other rhinestones. But the reason why I like to just fill in, you know, about a dozen or so cups is because I have a tendency to come back and touch on top of these when I'm moving it around. So I like to give them about just a little bit of time to dry in the cups, because you see they'll slide around really easily. It doesn't take much to move them around once I get the cup set. I just like to give it a little bit of time to dry, and then I'll come back and work on it some more. Just coming back and making sure these are set just the way I want them. Sometimes I get a little picky about how they're sitting inside the cup. I like them to look. Here, that one had a little bit too much glue in, so it wasn't pressed in as well. All right, now I'll let that dry. I got a piece of glue on here. Okay, now I'm ready to start on this piece. While that one's drying a little bit, I'll come back and work on that, and then I'll start gluing in these cups as well. And one of the things I do with these, I take a little bit of, usually I take some acetone, just regular fingernail polish remover, and a cotton swab, and I clean these cups out of these old pieces. I think I've already cleaned these ones out, but I'm going to do it again just in case I missed this one. And I'll just give these a nice little clean, a swipe on these cups right here. And make sure that there is some residue on that. And that just kind of cleans out any of the any dust or dirt or whatever inside there. Yeah. I can come back and use this if I want. This is just a clean wipe. Not a surface wipe. They're little baby wipes. These are very nice to use since they don't have a whole lot of extra things in them. Like I don't use the aloe or whatever. They're great to use. Now on this one, we have all kinds of colors of different stones. And I haven't used the orange yet, so I'm going to do this one with an orange, I think. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 orange. In the center cup is I use a oval, rounded or foil back on that center cup. And it's a clear stone I use, and then the rest of these I'm using all clear so that the cross can kind of come through. If I had these are really difficult to find in all the colors. And then when you find the shapes that you need, like this is a round oval and this is a rectangle. So finding an oval and a rectangle that match is really difficult to do. But I haven't done the orange one. I've done this one, and now I've done it in the light blue. I've done it in the sapphire, the fuchsia, and the emerald green, and I'll start replicating those colors over and over. We have quite a few more settings to fill with those. And again, this is a piece that will launch this fall when we launch all of our other pieces from these 1940s and 1950s settings that we purchased months back. It's been taking me some time to find all of the stones for these. So there, we're going to do the orange one next. We've already completed this one. It's dry, and we can put it on the... This one's drying for some work that we did on that. and I have a repair over here I want to start to work on. It was a Coro piece that had a real brittle plastic faux pearl piece around it, which does look nice, but the little corner broke off of it. So I was deciding, do I want to just glue it all on there and leave it like that, or could we consider maybe wiring, putting a new piece on, trying out something different, maybe some seed beads around this. I'm not sure how that would look. We could try putting a few in here and just kind of have a look at it and see what we think. It might be that these beads are too big. I mean, the piece is that the tiny little pearls on that, but it does have a nice little section here that's indented so that we probably could get away with doing this. So I'm going to see, and I also think that if we can ever, sometimes just modernizing some of these vintage pieces does a lot. I think when something breaks, we don't have to necessarily be consistent with those older components, like these old plastic beads that it's just a, do we have to be that true to a piece? Well, we can each decide that for ourselves, I guess, when we're doing our repairs. But for me, if I can incorporate some newer elements that elevate the piece, and look how nice that would look if we use the seed beads on there. It's just real shiny and pretty, and these are just, you know, plastic. Now, an alternative would be, you know, genuine freshwater pearls on here. That would be nice as well, but I don't think if I do, I don't know where I can get to them quickly. I bet I do have little tiny seed pearls. But as this is just a costume piece anyway, if I was working with gold or silver, I might go ahead and do that. So I think we're going to go ahead and try what I was thinking about doing was either using the seed beads on this for the repair, or even, this is a pretty little bead too. I considered using these little, I think this is, this might be shell. It could be glass, I'm not sure. I considered doing that. But at the end of the day, these stones, these little seed beads here had a bit of a pearl look to them. I thought, well, you know, it kind of matches the original color. So I think that's what we'll do to fix this piece. So that's on the table of things I need to repair. So I have that set off to the side there. And I guess what I'm going to look at next is the setting the stones on this one. I've pretty much decided that I want to use the E6000 on the bug cups, on the cups for the bug. So I'm going to get my glue ready for that. I use a toothpick to remount the top so I can, and this can be a little tricky, setting the glue on these. It can get messy, and I have to pull it closer to me, so I can't really do it under the camera. But I'll show you what I did after I set the glue on there. I'll show you how I did that. All right, come on, glue. Come on out of there. All right, I'm kind of trying to do it close to me, but trying to get it into the camera as well so you can see how I do this. This new E6000 on these pointed tips are amazing. It allows me to use them for other projects. And I tried using filling some of this in a syringe. I know that was what a debacle that was. That did not work at all. What I do like is how easy this is to come back and clean off, though. It's not incredibly cumbersome. And there's a lot of cleanup work when you're working with these glues. Now I want to see what this looks like under my big camera. And I want to pick out the stones that don't have any chips or anything. I want to get the ones that are as nice as I can find. All right, I'm just going to set it on there. And give it a little push. And press it down in there a little bit. I think I'm okay with that. It looks pretty decent. All right, so we have that one set. I'm going to come back over here and work on the pear, and I think we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the E6000 on the pear as well. And this one, since it has the little tiny prongs on it, I think it's pretty cool. I think this will set in nicely. Now on this, when I set the pear, I'm going to go ahead and use my tack. I'm just going to set it right inside of there and let it go. Kind of give it a little press. All right, have a look at it with my loop and see if I'm satisfied with it there. I think it looks pretty good. And when this completely dries, I'll come back and push these little prongs here over top of it. But I'll let that dry first. And I think we're good to go ahead and use the GS Hypo cement then on the head. And we're going to use these little AB blue stones for the head. And we're just going to give it a little squeeze. Now on this, sometimes I have to come back and ream the top out a little bit, because I don't put the cover on my glue each time I use it, and it very quickly dries on the top. I waste a lot of this glue. I'm going to come in here and ream that out a little. As soon as you do, you can see the beads start to form on the top. It comes out pretty quickly. Sometimes I'm racing to try to get to the glue in the cup before it makes a mess everywhere. And there, I have that all ready to go. I'm just going to take that stone and set it inside there, and just give it a little push. Make sure it's seated in there nicely. It looks like it is. And I just have the one other stone on this bug to do. It's going to be this one over here. And then we'll have our bug clip-on earrings ready to go. So I'm going to let this one set for a second and dry, and while that's doing that, I think I can kind of come back. This is how I work. I keep several things going at one time. Let the glue set on one piece, then come back to another piece. So we're going to come back to this one. We have quite a few stones to set in this piece here, and we have some green rhinestones we'll set in here, or blue. I'm not sure yet. On the edge of the leaf right here, we'll either use blue or green, since we use the blue sapphires here. And then up here at the very top tip, I might use a green. I did that on another piece, and I kind of like the way it turned out. So I might use a little green here, or I might go with the blue. I haven't decided on these, whether I'll use the blue stones or the green. Okay, so I'm going to come back with my GS Hypo cement and fill some more of these cups right here. We have quite a few rhinestones on this piece here. I'll show you what this piece looks like in another color that I completed, which I very much liked. I did this one, and this is what I said. I don't know on this piece if I'll come back and use the blue stones through the little stem there and around through here. I think it kind of sets the piece out. If you can do that, it gives it, you know, a little more character, a little more flow, you might say. So I decided to go with the blue sapphires on this one, and I may go ahead and use the blue sapphires in the stem here and there as well. But this is what it looks like when it's completed with the clear rhinestones. Just a really lovely piece. All right, and then on this one that we just finished, setting the clear rhinestones in, this is a piece that I have several more yet to finish. We have a lot of these settings, or I shouldn't say a lot. We do have a handful more of these 1940s, 50s, new old stock settings. And I went ahead and did this in a darker blue, which I really love. I love them in all the colors that I've done so far. And then I did it in the green. I think they're gorgeous that way. And the next color I'm going to try, where did I set it? I set it aside. I said, we're working on several projects at one time. That's the way I roll. I have to work on, because while I'm waiting for the glue to dry on one piece where I can continue working on it, I just keep working on one piece and the other. Here it is right here. We're going to use the orange on this one. I rather like this. I didn't think I would, but once I set the stones in there and, you know, kind of looked back, held it back a little bit, I was really pleased with the way it looked. And so we'll be working on this one as well. But right now, we're going to fill some more of these cups and try to get the rest of these clear rhinestones finished, and then put the either blue or green. I'm probably going to use the blue for the continuity of using that color. Right now I want to go ahead and get some more glue. I'm using the GS Hypo Cement in these cups because they work really well. I don't find that the GS Hypo Cement works as well on the larger spaces. I'm not sure why. From my own experience, it just seems like in these smaller spaces it works very, very well. But when I try to do like a piece like this big bug, or even the channels on here for those baguettes on this spider, I always find that the E6000 works a little better for me. If you have a better suggestion, please leave me a comment and let me know what you find works best for you. I've been doing these for years, and I've yet to find a glue that works better than that. I sometimes wish I could find a better glue. The viscosity of the... Now look what I've tipped that upside down. I'm going to move that out and come back to it in a minute. I'm going to reset the glue on this piece, though. When I botch a cup, I come back and reset the glue. And that happens sometimes. Let's try that one again. Sometimes I set the glue and then just give it a few minutes to just thicken and dry a little. I like that. So the viscosity of the E6000 I like better, but I don't like how it leaves all of those threads. When you have to come back and do a lot of cleanup, which can be cumbersome if you have a lot of cups, like something like this where, you know, you're working with a lot of cups. That's a lot of work. I didn't realize how many cups I filled with the glue. So I gotta work quickly here. I thought I had just enough rhinestones to Now I think we can come back and use that stone there. Maybe. Had a little bit on the top. I thought I had just enough clear rhinestones to finish this piece out. I know I have more in inventory. I just have to figure out where I set them. All right. I think there are about 60 or so clear cups, or cups for this clear stone. And that's quite a few rhinestones. All right. I'm just going to give that a second to kind of dry a little bit, and then I'll come back and push these all in to place. So while that's doing that, I can come back with my GS Hypo cement, and we're going to work on filling this cup. We're going to fill these cups, and then we'll finish the bug clip-on earring, and then we'll start on that new bug clip-on earring. And I guess that'll take me to my next project I need to do today. This is the other bug we need to finish. I think we can go ahead and set the glue on this. And I'm just going to come back in here and clean this off a little bit and see, make sure I have it set just the way I want it. And on this, it's not going to really matter if I get a little too much because we have the hole in the back. So it's going to press through, and then I can do some cleanup work later. All right, I'm going to come in here and pull out another navette. This is a piece I said it would be cool. We could actually invert this piece, and it might be kind of neat. But we're just going to do it the traditional way. I'll set it inside here and give it a little push. Now, I don't mind using a stone that's not foiled because we have that open back. So since we have the open back on this, there's some light that's going to get through there, and this will be a very nice piece. Okay, now we've set that other stone, and we'll come back and do a little cleanup work on that glue later. But this is how this bug earring will look, something like that. And we'll come back and set the prongs on this pair, and then we'll see if we can set any of the prongs on here, because there's some tiny prongs. They may be more ornamental than they are functional, which is fine because we have this piece set in nicely with the glue, so it'll be nice. Now that's the one earring, and it has a match, of course, because most people have two ears. I'll set this over here to dry. And then here's our other earring for that. But first, we're going to go back and tap on these stones. We want to tamp them down just a little bit. Once we set these stones, we kind of give them a little tap. You see how it slides around there? The viscosity of the GS Hypo cement does differ from the viscosity of the E6000, and that's probably one of the reasons why I like the E6000. The problem with the E6000 is that it is quite a bit more, it has the thickness of that is just makes it a little more difficult to use in its current way that it's dispensed. Like, this is the smallest tip I found on the E6000. I wish they would dispense this in a much smaller, or from a much smaller tube. In here you have the E6000, and it's just a lot easier. But I don't know that the E6000 could actually, be used with a tip that tiny. But I think it could certainly be used. It would work with a tip that was smaller than this. And I'm not sure after all these years, why E6000 isn't available in a much smaller tube, or a tip with a much smaller tube with a much smaller tip. It makes it a lot easier to get these stones to set when you're working with a glue that's, you know, that where the viscosity is a little thicker. All right, so we've tamped these pieces down, and we might even come back and tamp again. You'll see that is what we have with these 6000, a lot of these threads, and this isn't unique to me. Just about anyone who works in these, you know, restoring these pieces or crafting new pieces, or in this case, this is the first time this piece has seen a stone. These are all new old stock settings from the 1940s and 50s. So I'll come back and tamp these down a couple times more, I'm sure. I never like a stone to fall out because it wasn't properly glued. I've had, you know, it's one thing when they fall out because, you know, the foil's coming off the back of a stone, and that happens sometimes, and the foil will, you know, will be left inside the cup.
Last call for weekday package shipping.
So, all right, so we're going to let that continue to dry there, and while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and set the stones inside of the Maltese cross piece I'm working on. Again, we've already done several of these, or I've done several. I really like the look of these. These are difficult to find, and it's difficult to find stones exactly this color in all of these different sizes. So for that reason, this is why I opted to go with a nice bright stone for the cross, and then stuck with the clear rhinestones to fill in around it. And I've done this in several colors now, and I really like how it looks with those colors. So I'm going to go ahead and try this, and with another color, I opted to go with the green, or I'm sorry, the orange. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm working on 4 or 5 different things here. I have the Coro piece off to the side that I've set. I want to continue to work on that. I want to get the perimeter on this wire. I'm going to use seed beads to repair that Coro piece with, and I'm going to go ahead and set this. I've cleaned the cup out a little bit. I've used a little acetone and cleaned these cups out, because even though this is new old stock, it's only been around for 60 or 70 years, so those cups, you know, might have been dirty. I'm going to go ahead and put some E6000 in these cups right here. And I just have to take it. What I do with these, sometimes it's going to require a little bit of cleanup work on these, and I'm okay with that. I just take the glue and I put it in there and just sweep it away. It doesn't matter how you try to use the GS Hypo Cement, or the E6000 or the GS Hypo Cement, you're always left with this, with little threads. Now these, I'm just going to take them in and just set them inside the cup. If I see the glue sticking, I know I have enough glue. The cups are a little deeper than the depth of these backs, and that's okay because I filled them nice and deep. Now we're going to see quite a bit pop out of these. These I'll let set for just a little bit, and I'll get a good little bit of glue to come back and clean off of these. I'm totally okay with cleaning the glue out of these. And one of the things I like about this particular one is that these have some tiny little prongs on the edge, and these are going to rest into the cup very, very nicely. They actually press in, and these tiny prongs on the corners of these cups are going to do a lot to hold this stone in place. I'm really liking this old pot metal-y piece. I wish I could find some Givray stones that had it would be awesome if I found a Give Ray oval cabochon that had these colors in that I'm using. I would be so stoked if I could do that. I've spent so many hours sourcing all the different stones we need for the pieces that this is a piece I'm trying to work with. Maybe you have some ideas. Uh, Feel free to leave me a comment if you work on vintage jewelry or you work on restoration or in this case, just sourcing the old settings and then putting your own stones in if you have experience in that. This is a piece that's a brass, and I love working with these, but none of these have prongs on them. So again, these are all getting glued in. So I was fiddling around with some ideas that I could use to, in this case,
From Alexa app.
let's see.
The mail delivery is currently outbound.
Let's see. I have some beads anyway. What I was doing was using a head pin. And then there's the rose head pins. You have the flat head pins. And this is a tiny little, has a little tiny bail on the top. And I ran the head pin through the bail and then through the bead and brought it back here and just kind of bent it back. I was debating whether or not we could take these head pins and actually solder them down, solder them down a little bit. Or, press it. I just don't know. I don't like the idea of putting just a rhinestone in every single one of these cups that we glue in. Since this is done the way that it is, there has to be a way. Miriam Haskell, when she worked on these pieces and that, they used a lot of wire, but then they covered up the back with a nice filigree plate or whatever. And we could do something like that, except this piece is riveted on. So that would make it very cumbersome, to do something like that. So we really essentially have to work with what we have. And so if you have any ideas on how you might choose something different than just a rhinestone to put in these cups, feel free to leave your ideas in the comments. Again, what I did with this is I just took a round bead and I ran a head pin through the bead, and then I first ran the head pin through this bail of a little dangle here. I was just messing around, so I'll just take it apart later. I'm just trying to come up with a good solution for running a head pin through a bead and using a bead with these instead of just gluing in the rhinestones into all these pieces. I think it would make the piece a lot more durable. The problem is when you get to the back, when you run a head pin through, you're going to have to loop that. And then you have all these stray pieces. They have to be cut and they could catch on a garment. But we could also solder it down with a little piece of solder. When we pull that head pin through, we could just bend it off to the side instead of, on this. We could, instead of, for example, let me just snip it off and show you what I mean here. Instead of bringing it around and looping it, we could take that piece. Here we go. We could take this, probably pull it off to the side on this and solder it down. Put it with a little tip of solder. But then we have that's kind of sloppy. So what I'm trying to find is a solution. If you have any ideas, feel free to leave any ideas you have in the comments. Something that we can do besides using. So what I did was I took a bead here. I'll just go ahead and snip that off so I can show you what I work with. I just took a bead and ran the head pin through it. Or in this place, actually, that might be a piece of coral that I decided to use. I'll show you what I used here. Giving me a little bit of a pickle. I just guess I'll have to snip it off so I can show you what I did. Kind of digressing here since I'm working on filling these other pieces of jewelry. There we go. So what I used was, in this case, I guess I used a coral, piece of coral. It's a bead. And I ran a head pin through it, and then I had this little piece right here with the bail. And I ran the head pin through this and then through the bead, and then I ran it through there. I could just take the little ballatinis or the pointed rhinestones and glue them in all these cups, and it would work. But I was trying to find other solutions. If you have any ideas, please feel free to leave me a comment on how you might make this work. If you run a head pin through here or a little rose tip head pin through there, when you get to the other end, what are you going to do with that wire? What are you going to do with the wire on your head pin? Can we bend it back and solder it down? Can we go ahead and loop it like we would do any head pin on the back and then have all of those loops on the back? Or I even thought about running a wire through here and it was just crazy. There has to be another solution though, and I'm trying to think of ways we could, because we have a lot of these settings. Okay, enough about that. I want to go back to this piece here. I set the glue in there. A couple of these I got a little bit too much glue in. I'm okay with that. I can come back and do the cleanup work. I mentioned a moment ago that these were cool because where these little tiny prongs on the side of these actually allow me to press this stone in nice and tight. So I actually get a really tight fit on these stones. You can actually feel it kind of pop in there a little bit when you go to press, and I couldn't have found a better fitting stone for this particular piece. So I'm just pressing them in. You see I got quite a bit of extra glue on that. And what I was saying about these a moment ago is how nicely this glue actually can come off. It cleans off really nice. Oh. All right. Okay, we set that aside. Now we have to come back here, though. We have a couple of pieces here we need to finish up. One of them is the bug earring. We got the one bug earring finished, and it's over here drying nicely, looking beautiful, but we want to finish the other bug earring, which is right here, so I want to go ahead and get that one done. I'm using E6000 again on these pieces, and this is an open back, so I don't mind if I get a little bit too much glue on here. I'm just not too concerned about it. It's just going to come out the back and I can clean it off. And then I'm actually using unfoiled stones, Nivettes here on this. And I can get away with using the unfoiled stones again because we have an open back there. If this cup was just a solid cup, it might not look so well. I want to make sure I have the point on the bottom. Although I don't know, it would be too awfully bad if we inverted it. In this case, I don't know if it would set as well if we inverted it, because I think the point on the back is just a little deeper than the top is. Maybe not. I could be wrong. So I'm pressing that in a little bit. And I'm not sure if I like the way that that's sitting on this one. Again, these are really old pieces from the 1940s and 50s. They're new old stock, but they're old, and some of them are a little more misshapen. Some of the cups, they're not perfectly shaped, and so you kind of have to, in some cases I've had to stretch these with my pliers a little bit to get the cup to open just a little wider. These ones have little prongs on them. I'm going to try, once these are glued in and the glue's set, I'm going to try to get the prongs to I'm going to try to get the prongs to close just a little bit in. All right, I'm going to set this last stone in. Looks like I left something on there. I wiped these off, but it looks like there's something on there. I want to make sure that's nice and clean. Let me grab a little wipe here and make sure this is cleaned off nicely. I don't want to have any old residue left on these stones. These are stones that I sourced from an old piece of jewelry right here that had some things missing on it. So I keep a lot of old nice jewelry to harvest these pieces out of, because these rhinestones in some cases they're no longer made. Some of these pieces are, you have to either make your own, which I'm not opposed to doing. I've used resin made of my own molds and that to create a new piece where we can't find a rhinestone to fit. And it's doable, that is for certain, but it is definitely a lot of work. And if you can save yourself that hassle, why wouldn't you? Okay, so I've essentially set the other one. Now I'm going to go ahead and set, we found some nice pears, some AB colored pears to set in this one. We're going to go ahead and set the pear in as well. And I'm excited to discover on here that there's a couple of prongs right here, one here and one here, that I think we can actually use to hold this stone in. Even so, of course, we're still gluing it in. And this pear is slightly smaller than the cup, and I'm okay with that because it's not, a lot smaller. And once this dries, I'm going to use the prongs here and push them up. Now we have one more stone to set on this, and it's just the AB head. And I'm going to use the GS Hypo Cement on that instead of the E6000, since it's a lot smaller. I think it will do better. And every time I set the GS Hypo Cement aside for 2 seconds, I have to put my needle back in the top and open it back up again. But it flows pretty freely once you do that. It'll just start coming out sometimes pretty quickly. So we're going to fill this cup. Get it up along the edge nicely. There we go. And then we're going to just go ahead and set that AB rhinestone in the head there. I'm going to go ahead and tamp that down just a little bit before I move on. I'm going to have a look at it with my, I just love the way that's sitting in there. Okay, so we have our earrings finished. Once the glue dries on these, we're going to press in the bails, or the little prongs that are there. And these are essentially 1940s, 1950s clip-on earrings. Brand new, really. New old stock there. So we have a pair of earrings. We need to set them over here off to the side so that they can adequately dry. I'm going to open this up so that helps it lean up against a little. Oh, I pushed the stone a little bit. I'm going to push it back in. All right, so these are setting, while these are off drying, I can come back to a couple of pieces here I'm working on. The leaf, I want to try to find some, I guess I'm going to go with some blue sapphire colored stones. So I want to have a look at some of the sapphire colored stones, rhinestones I have. I'll show you a couple other pieces I'm working with right now on these new old stocks. These here bracelets. We worked with another company to help us cut these shapes right here. And then these ones I just filled in with clear rhinestones. It's kind of difficult to find the colors of rhinestones, although I did consider making a pattern in these little pie shapes here. I just stuck with the green. Now we have quite a few of these pieces. These will all launch this fall. And then this one here is another one. This is a new old stock piece. This setting right here, we had quite a few of these settings. And I was able to find some glass, not really translucent, but not totally opaque, really. It just really lovely glass on these ones. And these, again, will launch this fall, too. I'm just continuing to work on these pieces and bring out as many as I can. Here are some of the fur clips that I've worked on. I've so far done this in several colors. And again, this will launch this fall with all of our other pieces. These will come out in pairs. Again, these are new old stock from the 1940s and 50s. And I've done this one in pink and the blue. And I may have done another color too. I don't see them all over here. These are all pieces that I've managed to, so far, been able to source the stones for on these new old stock. But okay, now back to my cross. I think what I'm going to do is try to see if I can find some giveaway stones that are red, blue, and this color blue, and then the emerald green one. I want to try to find, right here's the emerald green. I adore this green. I'm just thinking if I could find a green and clear giveaway stone to put in this center instead of the clear oval, that would really elevate this piece tremendously. And these are fabulous because they're the old pot metals and they're in just mint condition because they came to me in the original boxes, in the paper and the cardboard boxes from the factory. I was just delighted to get these ones. So these are all ones that I've completed in various colors, and I just think I would love to see this with the center oval stone being a giveaway. If you have any ideas on where I might source some of those, I have looked all over the place. I think I'm not done looking yet, and I have a few more places I want to look. I even considered putting a dangle on the bottom of these. Just hanging something, just a dangle on the bottom cup. So I thought about soldering a jump ring on the bottom of this and then just having one dangle off of it, or a few beads off of the bottom, just to kind of elevate it and modernize it just a little bit. We'll see how that pans out. Okay, back to this. I was using PP20 on this. Here we had some SS8s and they were just a little bit too small. Oh, here are some of these are PP12. That is way too small. I thought I had a few more of the PP20 stones, which is the size I need to finish this off. I thought I had just enough. I thought I'd gotten them all out. I see I've strewed them around here. So I'm going to go back and see if I have enough. But I was going to say I found some sapphire blue stones for that leaf edge. But look, this is another common problem I incur, is getting the stones to match. This is the blue I have, and you can see I don't know if you can tell or not on here, but if I bring it over here, maybe this will show where this is a little more sapphire. This has a little bit of a green, almost and it would fit probably perfect right here, but the problem is I don't know if I can get away with the color. Whoops, earthquake. I'm not sure if I can get away with the color. Maybe I can. What do you think? You think I can get away with this color here on that. It's not exactly an exact match, but it's not that far off either. If I can use that, I can go flow. This will be look similar to the green one that I did with the green stones, and I like that flow, that little S that kind of, I used a little bit of a darker one with these green stones on this piece, and I like the flow of that. I think the the contrast between the clear and the green allow this piece to just flow, um, and give it a whole different look than if these were just clear rhinestones. So I think for that reason we're going to go ahead and try to. The problem with this piece I see is that I have the stones in this color. I don't know. This last stone here is a little bit of the cup's bigger. These might be, what are these, PPs or SS6? These are probably SS6 stones, and this one here is going to be probably an 8 or 10, whichever. 8 maybe. So I might have a challenge getting that size rhinestone. Let me look in my blue chiton, see if I have a blue chiton that's the size of that. You know what, I might. This is an SS8, it looks like. This might work. Boy, am I delighted to see that. I had no idea that I might have an SS8. I might be able to get an SS8 to work in this cup right here. Let's see if I can get a SS8 to work or not. Looks like it's just a little bit shy. Then again, it's not too bad. Seems like I should have a 10 there instead of an 8. But I'm probably not going to be lucky enough to find an SS10 there. But then again, I might. Let's see what this is. I might have just found the 10. Well, that would be luck if I ever seen luck. All right, I think we got it figured out. So we're going to use the, yeah, that would be probably a, we have 3 here that are the same size, roughly the same size, and then we have, that's another thing about these older pieces. Boy, oh boy, when you try to set these stones and you realize, wow, that's a much smaller cup than what you thought. Certainly that's the case for up here. We have 2 or 3 different cup sizes on the end of this leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and set that one in and see how it looks. And set this one and see how it looks. I think we're good with those 2 there. All right. We should go ahead and get those set while I can, so I don't lose the stones, because boy, oh boy, I somehow managed to lose my stones when I'm working on these pieces. Oh, and I work on so many pieces at one time. My husband says, how do you work on so many different things at once? Like, I have to, because it's just the nature of doing this work. I can't, and it's just the way I work. I can never work on one thing at a time. All right, so I want to get as tinier. I just barely want to touch that to get it to set inside there. And I just want to barely touch that, because I don't want it coming back out once I set it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tamp these ones a little bit. All right. And while I have this big stone, I don't want it going anywhere. I am going to set it. Now, the only question I have left is what size of cup did I use that? Um, did I use the 8s or the 6s on that? I'm going to try the 8. And see what happens with the 8. Let's see what this light looks like under it. I might go with the 6 on those if they're not sitting flush. I don't like it when the cups don't sit flush. I know that seems a little anal, but I'm going to take this out. I'm going to pop a 6 in there and see what I think about that. And then it's a lot of work when you do these restorations or when you do the new...
45 minutes left for package drop-off and delivery.
All right, let's see. Or these are 6s. And I'm going to have a look at that. Now they might set in there a little too far and I might not like it, but I'm actually liking the 6s a lot better than the 8s. So I think we'll work with the 6s on this little leaf. I really, really like it with the 6s. And that'll end that. I'll go ahead and put these 8s back in the bag. And I think this was a 10. Nope, it's a red one over there. I'm not sure what I was using that for. Probably something I was working on last night. Put these 6s away as well. And put the blue stones back in the shelf. So it's one less thing I have to worry about trying to find later. Okay, next, let's go ahead and take these out then and set them with the glue. These are ready to go. We have 3 cups to fill, and then we'll have the blue done. We'll just have to come back and finish the clear stones on the other side, and that is a lot of stones. I think I counted over 60 or 70 stones on the clear. We got the clear done on the one side. We don't have the clear stones done on the other. And we want to get these to set. All right, we've set those. We just need to tamp those down a little bit. We don't want them going anywhere. That one's still wiggling just a little bit when we touch it. But I'm liking the blue. I think I'm okay with that. They're not exactly the same color, but I'm okay with that. I don't think that that's a deal breaker on this piece. And I think I'm going to come back in here and tamp down these other stones just a little bit more because I have touched this. And if I do have them offset a little bit, maybe I can get them set straight. All right. So we have half of it finished, or relatively, maybe a little more than half. This is how it looks with the green stones when we finished it. And I really like using the colors in the very up here and on the very tips. I think that kind of gives it a nice little flow. And then this piece is just a fabulous vintage 1940s, 1950s piece that probably looks better now than it did when it was originally sold. And of course, this one never had stones in it, but here's what it looks like before we start on it. This is how that piece looks before we add anything. I'm not sure how many of these we had got in. I just pulled a bunch out of the inventory to work on. And I think I'm going to, I think I'll, on these ones, well, maybe not on these ones, on these, the crosses that I finished, I think what I want to do with these is see if I can source a few of the giveaway stones for the center oval cabochon or rhinestone. I think, and you can tell me in the comments what you think. Do you think if I found a giveaway stone, that would be a stone that's has this color of a blue and the clear mixed in it in the center, would be amazing in the center cup, or are they just perfect the way that they are? These again are the 1940s and 1950s pot metal. These were brand new, essentially, in their old 1940s, 50s papers, wrapped in, I think when I started unwrapping these, the week that we got them in, it took me a couple of weeks to unwrap all of the old settings. But I ended up with little micro cuts all over my hands from unwrapping so many old papers. It has just absorbed so much oil off of my skin. I didn't use gloves. I probably should have. Okay, I'm going to come back now and remount the needle applicator on the end of this. This is what happens every time whenever I set this aside, because I never put the lid back on when I'm working with it. I probably waste more glue. But since I set it on this marble top, it all, you know, picks off, and marble top is huge. So this marble slab is perfect for working on. I'm going to come back now and try to set some more of these clear stones. I thought I had enough clear stones to finish this. But I don't see my bag, and I don't know if I dumped them all out or not. I think these were PP20s, these stones here. I think these ones are PP20s. And I'm not finding the bag. I might have them in the clear. Oh, I'm dripping the glue. And these pieces, when on the other one, here's one of the bracelets then that I had one over there finished. These little, I'm leaving the tops of these on because once you peel them off, they're susceptible to scratching. But this was the original plexiglass. When you peel that off of the top, it's the nice apple green or emerald green. But this is a beautiful piece, and this actually has the earrings to match. I'm really excited to bring that piece out this fall. Let me show you the earrings on that piece too. Here it is. Here's what the earrings look like on that bracelet. This is the actual bracelet, and then these are the matching clip-on earrings. Again, these are of course, these are from the 1940s and 50s, these pieces. And then these are the earring clips that go with this one. Not a whole lot you can do when you get a 1940s or 1950s or 60s or whatever setting in. You're kind of stuck with what you have there. We just had to have the pieces cut to fit those pieces perfectly. All right, let's get back to getting these cups filled and try to fill as many as I can. See if I can finish this piece off before I have to. I may have already ordered some new PP20s. I know I have a lot coming in, but I don't know when they're going to arrive. I like to use Swarovski rhinestones whenever I can, but they're so expensive to source right now, and Swarovski The company changed the way that the dealers, we used to be able to get them, but they changed that. Now there's a whole lot of things, you know, you have to sign this and sign that to be able to. I don't know if I set the glue in that one. Let me see. Huh, I did, but it didn't look like it set in there very good. I'm going to add just a little more. Sometimes they come back and add a little more. If you let this dry a little bit, it seems like it dries up in the cup. So I'm going to. It is glued, but it doesn't stick so well. Sometimes when I get to the bottom of a bag of rhinestones and I don't have any left and I need a few more, I think, well, I wonder how many I dropped on the floor or how many I swept up. A lot of times once they get knocked on the floor or they get swept up, I'm in my workshop, so I work from my workshop and I drop things on the floor and sometimes I just vacuum them up. It's just too much work to. The exception to the rule is on that rare occasion, excuse me, when I dump an entire pack of rhinestones. That's just the worst. Oh, I hate when I do that. Trying to clean up. It's one thing if you tip an entire pack of rhinestones on your workspace, but when you drop them on the floor, oh my gosh. That's just such a big mess to clean up. So I try not to ever do that. I usually let those dry just a little bit before I tamp them down. All right, I'm going to look in this in my clear rhinestone container and see if I overlooked any PP20s. I'm not finding any more PP20s here to work with. I'm kind of disappointed about that, but I have my clear chatons marked in a little basket here beside me, and I put them in these little bins like this, and then I have, you know, the cases, the little workshop cases. There's my PP20 bag. So it looks like I emptied. That one came from Dream Creations. I'm not sure when I bought those, but I see a whole bunch of the AB rhinestones in the bottom of this. And sometimes the bottoms of these have little holes in them. And little rhinestones can fall out the bottom. So I put a piece of tape. I see I didn't do it on this one. I better do it. Sometimes the bottom of these, if you keep your rhinestones in a case, in a little basket like these, they have these little holes in the bottoms, and I've had it where the rhinestones have come through the bottom. So whenever I see one I haven't sealed off, I cover it. Because every now and again I dump out some of my rhinestones. Here's another piece I have a little repair to do on. Apparently there's a rhinestone missing here somewhere. See if you can find it. If there's one missing there that has to be replaced, or has to be set in. I'm looking to see. I have a PP18 that could work in a pinch, but I'm looking to see if I have any other PP20s. This looks like it's all different sizes in there. Looks like I'm going to need another, I don't know, probably another 20 or 25 stones that are PP to finish that one off. I have a lot of sizes here, but I wonder how close the SS8 is to that one, the 20. Let's have a look and see. I should have the conversions memorized by now, but I don't. Hmm. All right, here's our PP20. And this is an SS8. So there was a bit of a difference there in size. These are 8s. I'm sure I can come up with some that are probably close. A lot of SS8s, SS6. Okay, well, I might be having to wait until my... Oh, I see some in here. I think these are left over from my last project. See, I bet I have enough in there. I bet I do. I might close have. I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this piece off right here. I may have enough stones in here to do it. Okay, so these are probably stones I took out to do these pieces with, and when whatever I had left, I probably dumped them out, and whatever I had left I put in this little thing. Sometimes I do that when I'm working on something and I have pieces left. I just put them in a little thing like this so they don't have to get tossed out or something. All right, we got to remount the top of this. Oh, I guess it's going to come through. All right. Sometimes this tacky stuff works a little bit too well. And it pulls the stone right back out again. And it does that. Sometimes I let the stone set aside. I come back to it. I get a lot of glue on the ends of my tips because I use the tips of these toothpicks for so many things, and I get a lot of glue on them. But I just come back and clean the glue off and just keep using them. Yeah, I see I have different sizes inside this little container, so I'm trying to be careful to get the size that I think is correct. That's a red one. There we go. I think this is the right size. Let's see if we can get this one to work again. Get in there. There we go. Yeah, I'm tamping these down a little bit, even though I usually wait a bit before I do. All right, I'm going to look at that stone there. I wonder if I got one in it's too big, but nope, I didn't. I did not do that. I still need 3, 6, 9, 10. I still need about 16 more stones to finish this piece. So I'm going to see if I have them or not. 1, 2. I'd like to finish this piece off. I don't like to leave a piece sit with just needing a few stones and that's it. That's too big. I have a couple in here that aren't PP16s or 20s rather. These all look good. These are perfect. There's 3, 6, 7, 8. That's halfway there. I think we can get there. Slim pickings. We're getting down to the very bottom here. All right. The only thing I want to make sure is none of these are the pink AB stones, because I was working with them one night. I was working with these, and I think I put some inadvertently back in this container. This one looks like it's a bigger than just my imagination. Okay, let's ream this cup out again and see if we can finish this piece off. I think I'm missing a stone on that one somewhere. That's a nice piece. I think it's a Smithsonian. That's not one that I did. That's a brooch that came in on one of my acquisitions. And I think this was a piece done by Smithsonian or whatever. You know how they sell. And I think I must have repaired, because I don't see any missing stones on this at all. So that means probably a stone was missing and I replaced it. So if you were looking to see a missing stone, you probably didn't find it because there isn't one. This is a piece we'll probably sell in auction. Maybe we'll sell it today. If you're not doing anything, you can follow me on Vogue Vaults on district.net. My links are all right here at the top. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see we have a lot of links on there to all the places where you can find me at. We sell on Ruby Lane, Etsy, eBay, itsstillglitters.com, on district.net, and I sell on several marketplaces on district.net, but the one I'm starting right now, the marketplace that I'm starting on district.net is called Vogue Vaults, and we'll be selling a variety of things there, not just vintage, but a lot of vintage for sure. Vintage pieces that come in my own inventory, and pieces that we craft from vintage components and modern components sometimes. But that Vogue Vaults will be selling a variety of different things. Some different sellers will be joining me later on this year, I think, to bring their own pieces, higher end handbags, art, pottery, jewelry, fine and costume, but higher end selections on that particular Vogue Vaults platform. That's our intent anyway. So if you are a seller and you have a nice following in social media or your own established practice, feel free to reach out. We're always wanting to work with other sellers and dealers. I think I'm going to have just enough stones to finish this piece, and I am thrilled to bits because I don't want to leave a piece that's only needs 4 or 5 stones. That's so annoying when that happens. And then once I do that, I think we can go back to what can we go back to? The Maltese cross. I was working on the Maltese cross to fill that with the orange. Oh, we did the orange. I need to fill it with the clear stones that we'll put in that. And then one of the things I'll work on this week is trying to source some stones that have some giveaway elements about them. I think I'm okay with keeping these ones all clear. I think that helps the green stones pop. But this center oval cabochon, I would love it if I could find it in some giveaway colors. The fuchsia, I think, would be awesome. I think all of the colors would be awesome in those with giveaway stones. You tell me what you think, and if you have a comment or about it or a thought about it, please feel free to leave me your comments below, because I'm always looking for ways to make these pieces better. Right now it's just incredibly difficult to source all of the stones that we need to do all of the pieces with, so keeping that in mind, sometimes it might look better. We think, if I could have my druthers, I would be able to cherry pick all of the stones that I want. The problem is that these pieces, many of these pieces have so many different sizes on each setting. For example, this one alone, we have all of these stones that are roughly the same size, these clear ones, the same size cups, but that's not the case. Like, these are 3 different sizes of oval, uh, pointed back rhinestones. These 3 are different sizes, and you can find these 3 sizes all day long, but the challenge is finding these 3 sizes in the same colors. So on this piece alone, we have the clear rhinestones. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sizes of rhinestones on this piece alone. 6 different sizes. So if we were going to fill this entire piece then with, say, all the sapphire blue colors, we'd have to be able to find this sapphire blue in all of these different shapes. We'd have to be able to find them in the ovals as well as these chitons. And that is quite the challenge, finding the rhinestones for these pieces that match if you want to use just one color. But often we didn't see that in vintage jewelry. We didn't see where they used the same color in an entire piece. Just look at this one here, for example. Look at all of the colors they have on this. And we call that fruit salad when we see that happen. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more stones, and I'm betting I have 6 more stones over there. And we'll have another piece finished and going in our tray for our fall launch. We'll be launching this entire collections of vintage jewelry that I've been working on, these settings. We have thousands and thousands of settings, earrings, bracelets, necklace components that are all from the 40s and 50s that are brand new, old stock, and we're working on setting. I am just me by myself working on all these pieces, trying to have them ready to launch this line of jewelry this fall. And I'll show you before I close. I'm getting ready to sign off so I can go do a live sale, a live auction on district.net, which I'll be streaming here on my YouTube channel in just a moment, which, by the way, is a relatively new channel. I mean, I think I started this channel maybe a couple of years ago, but I didn't do anything with it. And then I learned I could multicast from the district.net platform onto YouTube. I decided we should probably try to work on the YouTube channel, do some work on here. So that's why I'm here, kind of showing you what I work on, some of these pieces that I work on, and kind of highlight not just these pieces, but this was strings of glue that's on here. Sometimes when I'm taking the glue off, I spin it like that, come around the edge and spin them and pull it off, and it works relatively well. So we've completed another piece. This is the leaf done in the blues. And tell me which one you like better. Do you like the blue or the green? And I think On the next piece, let me look and see, but I think I have, I'm trying to remember. Oh, no, I don't. No, no, no. I only have that. I have those only in blue and green. I was thinking I might have them in red, but so far, I've only been apparently only able to source this, or these, because these three stones need to match. Pretty confident that I want them to match. So that's what I have, the blue, this is the blue and the green, and you can let me know in the comments which color you like best. I think it's a little overkill. I tried to, have a look at it, what it might look like with just like all green stones or all blue stones, and I think it's just too much to have it all green or all blue. But I don't know. I'm definitely open to that, and I do have enough rhinestones to do it all in the blue and all in the green as well. I'm just not sure that I like it in those solid dark colors like that. I like the sparkle of the clear rhinestones. Kind of the same way with these ones. I think all pinks is just a little bit too much. So we have these pieces we finished. We did a lot today then in this little bit of time I came on. I did all of those, and I didn't do the spider, that was already done, but I did do the bug earrings. We completed those. I'll come back and do the cleanup work on those. Take off the excess glue and set these prongs. There's some prongs on here that we actually they're not ornamental, they are actually functional, I think. I can already pull off some of this excess glue. And those are our bug earrings that we finished. And let's see, what else did I work on? Oh, this one. I could go ahead and set some of these stones and be done with it. Let's see if I'm ready to push these down. I use a tool over here to press these in. There we go. I think I've got those pressed in nice and tight now. And it's nice too because there's a hole in the bottom of these square ones where the glue can kind of seep out if there's too much in there. All right. See there? Some of the glue seeped out the back. Okay, all right, so I have set these stones. They look very nice. I'm pleased with the way that the orange looks on here. I'm thinking I want to go ahead and set the clear rhinestones in there, so I'll have it done. And I just need to find the size of rhinestone that I had in that cup. I had them here a moment ago. I lose things even when they're right in front of my face. Just very good at that. I think they are back here. Right here they are. I need a few of those. Let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll just get out the sizes I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and I'm going to use the GS Hypo Cement. I'm sorry, the E6000 again on these. I use the E6000 on these cups because they're so big, and I don't ever put a lid on my cups or my end of my glue half the time. I know somebody will scold me for that. I'm not even altogether certain where my cap is for this. There it is, right? I do have it here. I do have a cap for it. All right. The other one I want to find is an oval There's an oval stone. It's clear. Oh, it's a special cup. Not sure if these ones are Swarovski or not. But I have them in a little palette, but they all come out of the palette half the time. So those are the stones I need to finish that piece. If I continue the same pattern using the oval in the center. And these oval stones are not as deep as the cup, but I can tell if I'm getting enough glue, if it's, when I go to try to pick it back up again, if it isn't easy to pick up, I know it's sticking to glue. And that's what I want to achieve. Oh, my stars. For some reason, this little ticky tack is very tacky. Goodness sakes. It's pushing my stone all over the place. All right. When I take the E6000 and I put it in these cups, I do it really quickly. I move very, very fast. I think that helps the glue from stringing as badly as it can. And I just kind of go in and go do a little dot and move out. I don't waste any time sticking around. I get it in there and move it fast so that it doesn't, I don't know, seems to leave a lot fewer of those little stringies. If you work with this glue, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And these are pretty easy to set. I just take the stone, and since the viscosity is such that it is so thick, the stone just sticks in there right to it. It's very, very quick, a very quick set. And some of these will have too much and there will be a little overflow and it comes out. It cleans off so nicely though. There we have our big clear rhinestone set. I'll go back here and tamp this down. Sometimes I get a lot of glue on these. I just pick it off. I use these for a variety of toothpicks. I don't know what I would do without my toothpicks. I use other tools too. These little tools like this, fingernail tools, I have a bunch of these I work with as well. These are just longer, and so they might hit my screen. When I use a toothpick, it's just a lot shorter. So, but these are nicer. I don't think they stick to the, I'm whistling, I don't think they stick to the actual stone as well, as badly as I should say. And when I do that, sometimes I'll come back around and clean that off. But when you do that, sometimes it sticks to your stone on the end and pulls it off. Pulls it back out again. Now that one, I got quite a little bit of excess in. When I do that, I just take it off. And actually this cleans out, even though it looks like it's a nightmare, and sometimes it is. When this dries, I take a little pointed tweezer and just pick it off, and it just peels right off the top. Works very, very nicely. I'd rather have a little too much than not enough on these cups. Looks like I got a lot more than enough on that one. That'll dry and it'll be easier to clean off when it dries. Okay, so I'm just tamping these down again, making sure they're in nice and tight. I want them setting inside as deep as I can get them to set. Some of the cups are imperfect because they're just really old settings and they didn't do everything so perfect back then. The way they, I don't know, I think the molds in that must be different or something today when they make these types of things. Because back then it seems like they made imperfections. All right, I think I'm about ready to wrap it up. I managed to finish quite a few little pieces here. Whoops, I just realized I wasn't even on the screen. I apologize for that. Yeah, I know I have quite a bit of glue on this one, but you'll see this will look just as nicely as these other pieces right here when we had to remove all the excess glue off of these ones as well. All right. We have these ones. These are ones we finished the other night. We finished this other one today. We finished the spider last night. I finished off this leaf today, and I finished off the bug earrings, and we'll clean off the glue, set the prongs, and those will be ready for the tray that we'll sell. And then I didn't get a chance to work on the coral piece. I wanted to string the beads on here and then bring it on to the coral piece. This was what the coral piece looked like before. And then what we're going to do is, I think instead we're going to add the seed beads to go around it, and that'll kind of give it a modern kind of a twist. This really is a lovely piece. Very, very lovely. Signed Coro on the back. And this is already going to someone, a customer already. This one's already spoken for. I just need to finish the work on it. Maybe I'll sit here and do this real quick. I'm going to put the beads on this. If I can get them in there. Well, I thought I might start to work on it, but I'm just having a bit of a challenge getting. I wonder how many beads it will take to actually repair this piece. I mean, how many beads will I have to string on this thing? I think it's going to take quite a few. I'm totally okay with. I have a whole bag of them, so it's not a problem. I have plenty of beads, that's for sure. I'm just thinking about the amount of time it's going to take to string all of the beads I need onto this wire. And then we have to properly set this wire onto the form. Probably isn't going to take that long though. I'm going to use the seed beads on this and bring it around. I thought I was going to, but I don't know. I might change my mind and go back to using the little tiny plastic form and just repairing that, or even tiny seed pearls. But the reason why I'm wondering about it is because some of these colors are not all uniform, and that I don't like. I don't like when colors aren't, well, in some ways when it's applicable. I mean, I'll have to think about this. Oops, an earthquake. Sorry about that. All right. We're not going to finish the Caro piece today. That's a repair that we'll have to wait for another day. I may just go ahead and use the original piece that's there. I have the other pieces there. It just means that it has to be glued. I don't really want to do that though. I don't want to use the original piece and glue it because it's a piece that's broke off. So I don't really want to do that. I'm thinking I'm going to, it's doable because this could get glued right onto the metal. So it's definitely doable. And there's a little ledge there to keep it intact. But I don't really want to do that. Really what I want to do is string a new wire. String some beads on a wire. I just need to decide, do I want to use seed beads that are glass, or do I want to use little tiny pearls? I'll have to look in my inventory and see what I have. But I'm going to head out here for today. If you joined me for even 5 minutes, or a minute even, or 30 seconds, thank you for joining me. feel free to follow me here on my YouTube channel, or I'm also, my link for Linktree is in my YouTube channel there. You can find all the places where we're at, where we sell vintage jewelry, and where I stream live to sell vintage jewelry and contemporary and fine and costume and things that we make ourselves right here in my own workshop. So I'm going to leave now and head over to district.net. If you're not on district.net, I welcome you to join me over there. I have my own marketplace that I just started called Vogue Vaults, and I also sell on a marketplace called Knickknacks. So I welcome you to join me over there. If you have any feedback, please feel free to leave it in the comments and I will read them. Thank you so much. So long for this afternoon. Oh, Teresa, hello.